The essential problem Facet has in grappled with how to value the super seniors was that it had never really thought about liquidity risks. Its model had always measured one thing, credit risks. That is what was the likelihood of a AAA tranche defaulting, which would cause to have to pay off the bomb's entirety. Cassano had always been fixed on the that questions because that his were he saw the risks and science AIG's risk models consistently showing there was virtually no credit risks. It always valued the securities at par, but now with the market in a state of panic, as Cassano described it, the only questions that mattered was that they were today, what could they be sold for in the marketplace. If it was less than percent of the dollar, as it clearly was, then had a contractual obligation to put out collateral. That was the liquidity risk, the risk that the continued drip of collateral caused wound drain of cash and ultimately create a run on defense that will destroy it in much the same way that the beer hedge funds had been destroyed. Incredibly, this was a form of risk that Cassano had apparently never considered and there before had never modeled for. It was also risk that AIG executives like Habewield had never accounted for, in large part because they hadn't even known it existed. That is why, too late, the company was now trying to adopt the Tibet methodology. In the short term, the problem was that the market for AAA at range of multi-sectors was frozen. There was no way to use trading data to establish values for the securities because no one was trading the securities. Nobody knew what a CDU was worth anyone. Nobody trusted anybody else marks and nobody dared to make an actual trade to find out. It was as if everybody in the mortgage market, having enjoyed a long drunk reveille, was finally sobering up. Looking in the mirror was not a pleasant experience. Thus, everyone on Wall Street had to rely on models to come up with new marks. There was no other way to do it. This is also why everyone's mark varied so significantly. Everyone had different inputs. The imperfections of quant style modeling had never been as so clear. Merrill Lynch was also marking down its securities. Its marks, however, were much higher than Goldman's, as Cassano liked to point out. Merrill's marks were around 90 cents on the dollars, while Goldman were in the 60s and low 70s. Because Goldman's marks were so low, view them mainly as an example of Goldman being Goldman, taking unto advantage of the situation to conflict playing on AIG, but the fact that didn't have its own valuation model made it difficult to refute Goldman's marks. Goldman's would later insist that it was not trading to halt, that it alone was being released about its marks. One of these tried and true techniques when counterparties object to its marks was to offer to sell up the low price to the counterparty, not once the counterparty accepted to offer, which to Goldman was proved that its marks weren't low enough. Goldman was also later pointed out that because it had used AIG to hedge trades, it did not pocket the cash it It got from AIG but 100 in order to go to counterparties on the other side of the trade. In other words, it had no motive for putting the screws to AIG because the money wasn't going into its own pocket. At that November 29th meeting, the one in which the top brass fought and finally met to hash out the situation, Cassano told the others that FP was already in the process of going to ground to create a new model that would allow it to evaluate the super seniors as quickly as possible, yet at the same time he once again downplayed the importance of the collateral calls. Collateral calls are part of the business. He hundred hating that he does not see this a material issue with or any of the other counterparties, according to the notes of meeting. Then he was asked how the dispute might affect profits for the upcoming quarter. AG noting if we agree to GSA's value could be an impact of $5 billion for the quarter. The notes read Martin Sullivan noticed would eliminate the quarter profits. GSA noted that this was not what he was proposing but illustrative of a worst case scenario. Foster would play their team. Financial crisis incurred commission that upon hardly the $5 million figure. Sullivan said his number would give him a heart attack. Sullivan later testified that he didn't remember saying that, and with that, the meeting ended.